There's been a real innovation in gardening of late, and I took advantage of it a couple of years ago and have found it to be so successful and so much easier than normal approaches to gardening, especially organic gardening, that I've incorporated it completely throughout my growing. And that's the wicking bed. What it does, of course, is it provides a base of water. I'm sure you've seen other videos. There's quite a few on YouTube. A base of water that you fill up and hold that base of water 4 to 6 inches deep, and it wicks up through the soil to the plant. So the plant is never without moisture, and it's real easy to water because all you do is just put the water in through a fill pipe to fill up your pool of water, and when it flows out your drain, you know that you've watered. So watering is maybe once a week, and it just takes a few minutes, and you never have to worry about your plants drying out. And the plants absolutely love it. As you can see, it's still March, and I've already harvested very large heads of broccoli, and this is kohlrabi, and we've got Swiss chard coming up, and of course the onions are doing really well too. All of this is in wicking beds, which makes it incredibly easy to maintain. Well, one of the things that has been recently developed to make the raised beds so much easier to build are these they call them planter wall blocks. You can get them at Home Depot. They cost about $2.60-70 a piece, and all you do is make sure that you've got the planter wall blocks level, and then you buy 2 by 12s. I make them a little deeper, so I add a 2 by 4 to it, and just slip them in, and you've now got a raised bed that's very well built. I will be adding, you can see there's a hole in the top of these wall blocks. I'll be pounding down a piece of rebar just to make sure that the wall block doesn't move, but I don't know if that's even necessary really. Main thing that you need to do in regards to a wicking bed is to make sure that everything is level, because the water is going to be in there, and you want it to be an even level all the way across the bed. One of the problems with raised beds is that in most cases, most people are just putting the dirt in, and it contacts the wood, and they don't want you to use treated wood because the chemicals in treated wood would be a problem, perhaps, in regards to your vegetables. So in the case of a wicking bed, because you're going to fully line it and the wood will never get in contact with the soil, you can use treated wood, and therefore your bed will be there pretty much as long as you want it. And so that makes it a lot easier. Once you establish the wicking bed, it's pretty much permanent. You don't have to maintain it or worry about it. Nothing's going to rot. So I would highly recommend that you use treated wood when you put in the walls in your bed. Now, last year I built these wicking beds up here, and I was trying to save some money, so I used some 6mm plastic that I found at Home Depot, and pretty quickly, I mean within a month, few weeks, several of them started leaking, because that 6mm plastic just doesn't have the staying ability that you really need when you have that much dirt and that much activity on it. So what I've done is I've gone back this winter, I've dug them all out, and I've installed instead EPDM, which is mostly made by Firestone rubber, and if you feel it, I think it's just inner tube that they found. It's absolutely safe. We use it as a liner for fish ponds because there's no chemicals that will bother anything alive, and so this is a very wonderful liner for a garden bed because there's not going to be any problem with chemicals in your soil. The other thing about EPDM, it'll pretty much last as long as you do. So once you install this in your bed, it's going to be there, and you're never going to have to worry about having to dig it out and reline it because it's starting to leak. So I would highly recommend that you spend the money. It's definitely a lot more expensive than that cheap plastic that you get at Home Depot. But I think it's well worth it, and I wish I had done that to start with, because it has saved me lots of hours of heavy work to dig those beds out and reinstall a new liner in there. So what you're going to do first is you're going to have to cut a liner that will not only go across the bed of your garden, but it's going to have to go up the sides. And so what I do is I buy 3 8-foot, like 2x12s, and cut one of them in half, and so that leaves you 2 sides that are 8 feet and 2 sides that are 4 feet. So the amount of liner that you're going to need is you're going to need 6 feet to go across the width, and you're going to need 10 feet to go up the sides, across and up the sides of the length. So a 6x10 liner is just about perfect for just a 4x8, which is a really good size for a raised bed, a 4x8 bed. Okay, well, I've taken a staple gun, and I've gone around and I've put in the liner for the bed, and so the process now, what you need to do is to find where you want to put the drain hole, and that's going to be where you want to stand and watch to see when it gets full. So I'll probably put it on this side. I want to put it about 6 inches up, and drill a hole, put the 1/2 inch PVC pipe through, and put a small hole in your liner so that when you push the PVC pipe through, it actually kind of seals that pipe in there. So I'll do that now. I found that a 7/8 auger is about the exact right size to put in a 1/2 inch pipe. So I'm going to drill a hole right here, and that'll be my drain pipe, and then I'll put a small cut when I come through on the other side into the liner, and then I'll squeeze the pipe through, and that'll make a sealed drain hole for the bed. Okay, so you'll squeeze that pipe through that liner, and something around that length to stick in, and I'm going to cover that with a screen. And then on this side, I'd chop it off about here. And that'll be your drain. Now, as you can see, I've fashioned a little screen that I just wrapped around and stood up on the drain hole, and because when this gets full of compost and the water's coming out, it can clog up your drain pipe. But I found if you put a little screen protection like that on there, that the drain pipe stays clear and it continues to flow without problem. Okay, I'm laying in this 4-inch socked drain pipe that you can get at Home Depot. This is the best thing you can use to make sure you keep your reservoir easily filled. I'll be drilling a hole in one of them, side over there probably, so my hose will reach it real easily, to put a fill pipe in. And then when I put the water in, it'll fill this pipe, and this pipe is full of holes. It's made for drains, and it has a sock that comes with it that goes over it to keep the holes from getting filled, so that it continues to transfer the water very easily. Now, what I'm going to do now is to seal up the end of this pipe. Pull that sock a little tighter over it, and then put some landscape fabric and some zip ties to make sure that the compost doesn't get down into the pipe and start filling the pipe with compost instead of holding it open for water. So I'll do that now. Okay, well, I hope this wind isn't too bad on the sound. I'm trying to block it with my back so there won't be too much, but as you can see, I've zip tied a piece of landscape fabric over the end of this tube, so it won't be getting in the compost won't be getting inside the tube and clogging it up. Okay, I'm going to be putting in a piece of 1.5 inch pipe for my fill tube, and so I've cut a hole in the fabric, and I'll be drilling. I found that a 2-inch hole saw is exactly the right size to fit a 1.5 inch PVC pipe in. So I'll be drilling a 2-inch hole in there, sticking the pipe in, and that's the last thing I do before I start filling it up with compost. Okay, so you can see that the 1.5 inch PVC fits perfectly down in there, and that's how you'll be filling this up. And as soon as the water reaches that 6-inch level, or 7-inch maybe, then it'll be coming out here, and that'll be the signal to you that you have completely filled your wicking bed. Now, as I put in compost, I'm going to try to distribute this tube a little more evenly. Right now it's going to coil like it wants to, but as I apply the compost in there, I'll be moving it to where it's more evenly distributed through the bed. Okay, I don't know if you can see in this video, but when I was laying in the compost, I was pushing that hose, the pipe, to where I had some space between coils of the pipe, so it would more distribute the pipe throughout the bed instead of just being coiled up against each other in one place. So that's your opportunity. Make sure it's flat on the compost tends to want to get underneath the pipe, raise it up, and you want it flat on the bottom. So as you're laying in your compost, be sure that you're keeping it flat on the bottom and pressed down by the compost while you're coiling that pipe and making sure that it's kind of an even distribution of the water throughout the bed. One very important thing that I want to add is that because that water is sitting there, underneath soil, anaerobic pathogens can actually grow. I mean, fungus and mold and different things can grow in that water, and bacteria too. And to keep that from being a problem for your plants, what I do, and it works very, very well, is just get some hydrogen peroxide. You can get it for 88 cents a bottle at Walmart, and put a glug, I'd say about 1/3 to 1/2 of a bottle down the fill hole, maybe once or twice a month, something like that. That just keeps it oxygenated, which helps the plants too. The hydroponic people put hydrogen peroxide in their water all the time to keep the oxygen in the water, and it also kills any kind of anaerobic pathogens that might start to build up in your wicking bed. So make that part of your regime where you put 1/3 to 1/2 a bottle in each wicking bed at least every month, if not every couple of weeks. Okay, I put the compost in, pretty much finished the bed. I would suggest, this is what I do, after I've got the compost all piled in there, I walk on it to pack it down, because it needs to be pretty compact so that the water will wick up to the top. I've also found that as far as what soil to use in here, just pure compost works the best. I've tried everything. Tried Mel's Mix from that Square Foot Gardener. I didn't really see any benefit from that versus just pure compost. Just no soil. It works wonderfully. The plants absolutely love it. As you can see, everything's growing beautifully, and everything is in pure compost. I've got a lot of asparagus there. What I found also that really makes sure that you're successful is when you do plant your plant, put a little small handful of Osmocote. I've tried Miracle Grow and all kinds of other things over my decades of gardening, and nothing seems to work like Osmocote. Osmocote seems to have a mix of chemicals and actually a release of the chemicals that'll last like, I don't know, 4 or 6 months, that the plants, it's just perfect for the plants. So every plant I plant with Osmocote seems to be successful. So I've gotten down to just wicking beds, pure compost, and a handful of Osmocote when I put it in the plant, and you should be successful. Now at this point, what you need to do is to fill that tube till you get the overflow here, and then actually put the hose and get everything wet here to where it's just soggy. It's absolutely a pool of water that will eventually leak out here, because that compost has to be saturated for it to start the wicking process. If you just put in dry compost, leave it dry, it won't be wicking. But if you get it wet, to start with, fully wet from top to bottom, then the wicking will take place, and you'll get what you've counted for. I've never seen and been involved in a gardening method that is absolutely foolproof as this. Wicking bed with Osmocote, and there's just not even a contest. I've never seen anything grow as good of vegetables as quick and as consistently as this method. So good luck with everything. Thank you.